This is Fred Richani. We have right here via Zoom a very special guest. She's the co-founder of Bloom Charity, an amazing organization that's also working with one of our favorite organizations, HEAL Palestine, empowering children in the sides of development, education, mental health, food security, and much, much more. Here to talk about all the great work that Bloom is doing is Amina Shams. Amina, thank you so much for the time. How's everything going?
Everything's great. Thank you so much for having me on, Fred. I really appreciate it.
This is a bit of a loaded question, I know, but how are you and your staff holding up, and how's it been trying to get aid with all the chaos that's been going on?
To be honest, it's been gut-wrenching. I don't think any of us imagined that this crisis would go on for as long as it has. And the situation only seems to be getting worse. And, just being able to have this eyewitness account to what's happening through everything that's being shared, it's been gut-wrenching and extremely difficult. But to be honest, we don't have the time or the capacity to take a break from that, because the people living in Gaza have no choice but to go through what they're going through. And we take it as our responsibility and, just something that we have to do. Every day we get up and we think about what we can do to make a difference.
I think the million-dollar question for a lot of people is, how is it getting aid into Palestine right now? Because, of course, as you know, the occupied territory, Israel controls what goes in, what goes out. There are some volunteers you do have on the ground, but I'd imagine it's a major challenge. So I don't want to pose any security risks or anything for your staff, but how hard has it been to get aid? And are you able to kind of shed some light for anybody that would like to donate on how aid gets in?
Sure. So actually, Fred, Bloom's mobilizations have been very unique. And I think we have a unique model and a unique opportunity in how we're supporting the people of Palestine. As you know, aid has not been allowed to come in. And the scale of the aid that's needed requires the aid to come in through these large international organizations. But Bloom has always been a grassroots nonprofit, and we focus on community empowerment and working within communities to support needs and allow them to be the shepherds of their own healing. And we found a way to facilitate our programs in that same way, with those same values on the ground in Gaza. We actually partnered with an organization called HEAL Washington, which is an online Palestinian newspaper that's based here in Washington, D.C., where I am. And they have staff in Gaza. This staff of journalists, they found themselves in a crisis, living in the refugee centers with no income. And so we've contracted their staff. We are working in collaboration with that organization. And so it's people from Gaza that are actually executing our programs. And in terms of, acquiring the materials to be able to provide these thousands of meals, they're actually sourcing everything in country. So, these are incredibly resourceful people that know the land, and they're able to get things at the best cost possible, even though the costs are incredibly inflated. And it's not possible for, the average person in Gaza to afford these materials or these ingredients. But we're able to work through them and work with people within Palestine to acquire the things we need.
And that's amazing. And I want to commend you for that. And for anybody that has any more questions and whatnot about Bloom, from what I understand, you guys have been top rated by GuideStar for several years running now. So obviously you're doing something right. But from what I understand, you've only been really working with Palestine since December of last year. So December 2023. A lot of your work has also been around the world, including in Morocco. How did this all kind of start for you, and what eventually led you to Palestine?
Absolutely. So we started, the seeds of Bloom were planted in 2015 when I completed an adoption. I grew my family through adoption, and my third child is adopted from Morocco. And through that experience, I knew, I have a background in public health. I knew I wanted to do programs and have an ongoing relationship with the orphanage and the country that I brought my son home from. And so I went with this mindset of, I'm going to do a needs assessment, and I'm going to figure out what programs I can put in place. And when I got to Morocco, there was a lot of focus on education, and there was this request to bring tutors in and support education for the children. But we were also hearing statistics like these children are 500 times more likely to die by suicide. 45% are diagnosed with PTSD. And many of the adult children were too afraid to leave the orphanage when they turned 18 and it was time for them to go. So what I realized is that there's a mental health psychosocial support need. And this is an unmet area and a gap in the care and services being provided to these vulnerable children. So Bloom came in with that mission. Our focus was mental health and psychosocial support for children in orphanages initially. And so we started working, as you said, in Morocco. In the first 5 years, we built 10 play gardens. These are healing playgrounds with green elements in orphanages all over Morocco. We were training caregivers to be trauma-informed and doing enrichment programs. So giving the children experiences and relationships with people that were in the local community. Oftentimes, people in the local community didn't even know there was an orphanage in their neighborhood because these children were hidden. It's considered to expose an ill in society, or it's a black mark of society that there is an orphanage. So what we wanted to do is really create an awareness about these children and get the community support and build relationships so they weren't afraid to leave when they became adults. And so, we found a lot of success with Bloom in those first 5 years. But then 2020 came, COVID came, and we found ourselves doing other things like, a lot of crisis control during, providing hygiene equipment, providing electronic equipment so the kids could continue their education. And, we really started to think about, how do we want to scale Bloom? Where do we want to go from here? And what we decided was that we wanted to move beyond focusing just on orphanages. We wanted to go global with this mission and focus on vulnerable children around the world. And so we started doing that, and we started exploring doing these similar projects in other countries. Well, then the Moroccan earthquake in the fall of 2023 hit. And we had this unique opportunity to mobilize very quickly because of the team we have on the ground, the capacity we had. So we started a new program called Mobilizing for Children in Crisis. And that was in September of 2023. And we started rebuilding a school community in one of the villages that was impacted by the Moroccan earthquake. Well, 1 month later, October 7th happened. And again, we knew that we had to do something. And now we had this new program called Mobilizing for Children in Crisis. And we leveraged that to get involved and start supporting the children and the families in Palestine.
Absolutely did incredible work. And of course, not only have you done amazing work in Morocco and Palestine, but HEAL Palestine has as well. And you two are now partnered up. For those that don't know, HEAL Palestine is also a grassroots organization co-founded by Steve Sosebee, who was one of the original co-founders of the pcrf, the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. How did you two link up, and how's that synergy been going since both of you very much have the same vision?
Absolutely. So, for a long time, I've admired Steve, the founder of pcrf and now HEAL Palestine, and his work. And, we at Bloom, we always look for people that are already in those communities doing the work to learn from and to talk to. So when this situation in Palestine arose, the first thing we did is line up a series of conversations with, presidents of many different organizations, including Egyptian Red Crescent. And, we were talking to people at World Central Kitchen and just trying to see what we could do. How could Bloom get involved? And we couldn't find a way in. We couldn't find a way to be on the ground in Gaza. There was just, there was so much frustration, and as now we all know, about what was happening. But when Steve and I spoke, he told me how he was going to start bringing these children out of Palestine for treatment. And I asked him, are you doing anything for their mental health yet? Because I knew that was a cornerstone mission for his new organization. I said, have you built that capacity yet? And they hadn't. So we developed a MOU with HEAL Palestine. Actually, within the first 2 weeks of HEAL launching, our MOU was signed. And what our role is to align the patients that Steve is bringing over with pro bono, trauma-informed mental health therapists once they arrive here. And in addition to that, we engaged a psychiatrist in Egypt who evaluates the patients when they cross the border into Egypt. He sends us the evaluation, and then we align that patient, depending on which city they're coming to in the U.S., with that therapeutic support. And we also have authored a trauma-informed care manual, as well as an online video tutorial, which is where the therapist, psychotherapist Lina Derhali, who's a Palestinian American psychotherapist, she educates people who are host families or volunteers for these children about how to engage with them in a way that doesn't unintentionally cause further harm, and that is trauma-informed in its approach.
I'm glad one of the psychotherapists is Palestinian, because this is very unique, right? Not everybody has a frame of reference on what it's like to be illegally occupied and going through a genocide. So has that, I know you've provided mental health resources before for kids, but did it kind of alter your approach in that sense? Because genocide, unfortunately, is just a different animal when it comes to human trauma.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And one thing, we really believe in at Bloom is working from within the communities, because there is no two situations or two communities that will require the same response, right? It has to be tailored, and you have to understand, and the trust comes when it's people from within your own community that are the shepherds of your healing and helping you build that capacity. So one of the first things we did when we developed this MOU with HEAL is develop our mental health advisory board. And there are a number of Palestinians, Palestinian Americans that are in this field that are guiding and informing all of our work as we're doing it.
Are there one or two things that you're most proud of that you can highlight for people as an example of the work Bloom has done?
Absolutely. I think, if I'll start, I'll go chronologically. I think one of the things I'm incredibly proud of is in Morocco, we built the first fully handicap accessible playground in the country. And, when we would explore, orphanages and communities to support, we kept being deterred from this one orphanage. And we were told that the children are disabled, they don't need a play space, you're going to waste your money. And for us, it was really important to highlight equity in play and equity in these services. And so we insisted that we wanted to visit this orphanage, and we insisted that we wanted to build this play space. And so in 2020, we actually built a magnificent playground, play garden in the city of Casablanca for an orphanage that's for children with disabilities and severe disabilities. And the joy I find when I see those images of those children laughing, learning, and healing, it's pretty incredible. I think that still is something that touches my heart just in a very different way. And secondly, I would say our Bloom has this unique ability to, as a smaller grassroots volunteer organization, we can mobilize quickly, and we can pivot. So when this crisis came up, we were able to meet the need, and we were able to meet it quickly and move quickly. While sometimes other organizations, there's a stall and a delay, and there's red tape, and there's all these other things. For us, we were able to find an opportunity very, very quickly to get in Gaza on the ground and start providing psychosocial support programs. So initially, we weren't doing food because we didn't have the ability to do food. What we did was we said, listen, we'll do something very simple. You have people there. They're trusted people. They're vetted people. They're journalists who have sold stories to Washington, Al Jazeera, everywhere. And what we're going to do is we're going to train them how to do psychosocial support programs in the refugee centers. And they, went beyond our expectations. They found musicians and clowns, and everything we dreamt of, somehow they delivered. And they created these magnificent 4-hour events in the refugee centers. And, the children were just responding so well. And the ripple effect was that we would see in the video footage and the photo footage and from the reports we were getting that the mothers and the caregivers who were in these extremely stressful situations, they were starting to see the children laugh and smile, and it was bringing them relief and hope. Because at the end of the day, what everyone needs is hope. And when a mother sees her child laughing after such, incredible trauma, it creates hope in her that life will go on, that we can heal from this, that there can be a future. And so what we saw was this very healing experience. And then from there, we the food crisis it was just unbelievable. And so we said, these people are so resourceful, they're so incredible. What can we do? And so just 2 weeks ago, we actually opened our first permanent kitchen in Central Gaza. We're feeding right now 1,000 meals 3 times a week. We have the capacity to scale with the proper funding. Beyond that, we're still doing hot meals, takias, they're called, community kitchens, in Rafah, Jabalia, in the Mawasi area. And we're looking to just keep feeding as many people as we can. We're also doing clean water, and we're doing baby formula distribution, and also fresh produce. So we're providing fresh produce to families in the tent communities.
That's absolutely incredible work. I mean, I have to commend you and Bloom for all the amazing work you're doing. While I have you here, where can fans find Bloom online, and how can people sign up and volunteer?
Absolutely. So we would love for people to follow us on social media at Bloom, the number 4 and the word charity, Bloom for Charity. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms. We also have a website, bloomcharity.org. And info@bloomcharity.org is the email. If you have any interest in getting engaged in a deeper way, like I said, we are a grassroots nonprofit. Really, everything we call, we have this amazing group of what we call Bloom ambassadors. They're people that network for us and fundraise for us and host events, online fundraising, and none of us is paid staff. We are truly a volunteer-run organization. And so we need the support, and every dollar that's raised is truly going where it's needed.
I should note, too, for anybody who cannot donate but still wants to make an impact, you could also link the Bloom Charity on your Instagram. So
absolutely,
that is currently linkable right now on Instagram and Meta's platforms. Amina, thank you so much for the time. For anybody who isn't convinced already, why should people donate and volunteer to Bloom?
First, I will say that Bloom is one of the very few organizations that's actually on the ground in Gaza in a community-based, community-empowering way. I think that is one key reason. The funding is truly going directly where it's needed. I think the other thing is our commitment. We have a long-term commitment here. We are not an aid organization. We're here for the long haul. We see a community that is traumatized. They're going to need mental health, psychosocial support for generations, right? This is going to be generational trauma that they're dealing with, and we don't plan to leave. This is a relationship that we plan to have for forever, as long as Bloom exists. So I think that those are the things that make Bloom unique. We will continue to adapt and evolve our programs as the situation evolves, but we will never abandon a community that we've started to engage with.
I love that. And do you have any advice for people out there that want to help but just feel hopeless, feel fatigued after 8 to 9 months of this and no end in sight?
Listen, I understand. I have those days too. Some days are really, really difficult and frustrating, and extremely painful and excruciating. But I open my WhatsApp and I see the messages from our people on the ground, and I see their resilience, and I see their desperation, but also, they're not stopping. They, when the tragedy happened with the World Central Kitchen staff, we felt a responsibility to reach out to our people and say, hey, listen, if you need to take a pause, a break, we understand, you're putting yourself in harm's way. This is dangerous work. And the response we got was, we rather die on our feet. These people have no option, and they are resilient, and they are hopeful, and they do want to rebuild, and they do believe in their country and in their people. And we have to believe in them. That's our responsibility, is to keep going, keep working, and stay committed.
You can visit bloomcharity.org. That's bloomcharity.org. And if you want to start getting involved, even in a small way, you could link Bloom Charity on your Instagram profile as we speak. Amina, thank you so much for the time. It's an honor and privilege to speak to you and to learn about the amazing work you and your team are doing. Before I let you go, is there anything else you wish to address or that you wish I asked you in this interview?
This is a collective effort. And, Bloom is an organization that believes in, this model of communities coming together to make a difference. And so we want people to feel like a part of our organization. Reach out, connect, message, send us your ideas, your thoughts, and work with us. That's what we're hoping for, and that's what we want.